Rebecca.
And today we will be discussing AI and how students are using it and what is being done about it. We know that students are using it, and we know that faculty and staff are using it as well for other things, or just aware of it, cognizant of what's going on behind all of the things that we use AI for. But we want to know how Delaware Valley University is responding to the explosion of AI usage.
We have guests here who can answer that very question, including our Vice President of Academic Affairs, professors from the English department, and a few students to weigh in with their opinions.
So we're going to get started with Dr. O, our Vice President of Academic Affairs. And since we already know that many students and professors are utilizing AI, what does the university have planned for its AI policies, knowing that this is happening?
Thank you. Well, first of all, it's really excellent to be here. I'm excited. I think this is a wonderful opportunity. So first, to answer this question, first and foremost, yes. Our students have discovered AI in all kinds of ways. We have faculty and staff who are using it for different things. So for me, the first solution is what we always do in higher ed when we don't know how to handle something, we form a committee. But we have put together an AI task force, and for me, the key for doing that is we need to hear from all voices. So that task force has administrators, it has staff, it has faculty, students, a couple students, particularly in our grad programs, who have their voices being represented there as well. And trying to give guidelines for something that also has a whole philosophical aspect about how people feel about it, as you can imagine, is a little bit challenging, but the task force has been amazing.
So how do you feel that AI will continue to influence education and educational instruction?
So I'm not like a full-time in the classroom professor, but what I've seen from my end at the library is a lot of different ways to find information. So it's kind of rocking the library world in, is this going to replace all the search engines, all the databases, the journals and everything? And I think very resolutely no, because I've always felt that a single search engine is a myth. Like you can never get everything in one place and be able to search from it. I also know that there's a lot of privacy and information rights and things out there going on where these AI are saying, I can give you everything, but how they got it is a mystery. And sometimes not legally. So there's a lot of that going on right now, but I do feel that, at least from my end with research and things, it could really be an amazing tool to help you find things in a lot of different and new places, to help you gather ideas, to help you brainstorm even on a topic. Like if you're bringing a paper topic or something, you can have it argue with you. You can have it bring different points of view. You can have it give you a couple of sources that you then go investigate yourself.
You can have it write questions for your podcast.
Yes, write questions for your podcast. But that's the kind of stuff I'm investigating right now. Like, how good is it, and how do we provide guidelines for students, just like we provide you guidelines for how to assess information and whether it's credible. We're trying to help you assess the credibility of the tool and the kind of answers it gives you.
Does anybody else have anything to add?
I think there's a mistake in imagining AI as monolithic, or that it can be used sort of singularly, right? When we talk about it, and I'm glad that this is focused on its role in education, but that's significantly different than its role in the rest of the world. Because our job as educators is to make sure that you walk away having learned something. That's not the same thing as asking whether or not it's a valuable tool. There are all kinds of valuable tools out there, but at the point where calculators became kind of ubiquitous and easy for everybody to have access to, we had to switch how we were teaching math, because you couldn't continue to use the same method, because the goal is to teach people things, not to just have a tool available that can do the work for them. So I teach in the English department, and this means that what happens with a lot of users of ChatGPT is it writes their whole essay for them. We know study after study, longitudinal studies that do the work on how information is retained, that if you don't write, you don't learn. You don't retain things in any case. A lot of the work that's memory and dump, you have to learn something for a test or whatever, is good information for the time, but it doesn't stick with you for a very long time. If ChatGPT ends up replacing things like the act of writing, some of what's going to be lost is how we learn. So it's fine to have it kind of go back and forth with you, and it's fine to have it as a tool to engage in conversation with. And I think it's fine when you're out in the world, paying attention to what goes on, to have it write questions for you or complain to whatever company ripped you off or whatever. I mean, I don't think that that's going to affect people's lives too much. But when I'm tasked with teaching you something, I think we have to look at least two things. How is it being used? And once we know that, what can I do differently as an instructor to make sure you're still being educated? Because it's far too easy to just engage in write me an essay and then ChatGPT writes it. One of the issues, right, that when we talk about like a committee, is that usually the people that volunteer for committees are the people that are doing the right thing already. And they're not actually the people that I'm worried about. For the most part, those students, I'm going to say you guys, I'm just hoping, fingers crossed, these students are probably aware that you're not learning as much with ChatGPT. And it's new, right? So the studies on it are relatively, they're poor because they don't have any real long longitudinal look at how it works. But some things that are definitely already disappearing are creativity, not so much critical thinking and the like, but creativity is disappearing. And that matters in all fields. It's often imagined as belonging only to the liberal arts or English. But if you can't be a creative scientist, you can't invent.
Anything else to add?
I do just want to quickly add, so my role, I spend a lot of time with employers because they're constantly giving us feedback as to, here, what do we want your students to have skills in so that we're going to hire them? And obviously, yes, we have a broader of the value of an education and knowledge, but ultimately you're all going to leave here and you hope to, find your passion and be employed. So to your question about how it's going to influence educational instruction, I do worry about that a little bit, if I'm being honest, when I hear how employers are saying they're already using that. And then I try to kind of map that backwards to say, are we doing things in the classroom? Is the library supporting so that our students can come out a little bit on top of others who might be graduating from other places that have just taken this and they are putting in everything. So I worry about trying to find that balance because however you feel about it, it's going to influence education and it's going to influence how we instruct. Just my humble opinion.
It is a good tool, and I teach my students how to use it as a tool. And Brian, what you were saying about creativity, I teach my students that too. You could leave here and know how to use the tool or not know how to use it. Those who don't know how to use it will be average. They will be left behind. So about 25, 30 years ago when the internet became like a big thing, those who embraced it, they're doing very well now. Those who did not, average. So it's the same thing with the use of AI. Don't fear it, embrace it, but just know it's not like a cure-all.
Do we have any student input on this or any student takes?
Not specifically about this question, but something that I find somewhat ironic is the fact that we are on an agricultural campus and a lot of people care about the environment, and these factories that help run all of the computers are destroying the land nearby and the people that live nearby. These people don't have water because all of the, vapor, whatever, is getting ruined by these factories. So I just think it's a little silly that a lot of people will care so much about animals and the environment, and then they're like, write my 8-page paper. I'm like, okay, that's all right.
Yeah, we do tend to take our things for granted, I feel, especially like when we're here very disconnected from that like idea and like perspective. To get to like understand that, like that's kind of what we're doing here, is to understand like, oh, this is what we should be paying attention to, rather than like, this is just something that we have, like our phones that we have in our pockets every single day. Like, it's just something.
People don't realize how huge these buildings have to be to host the amount of infrastructure needed for AI. And like in America right now, we're already going through like a lack of land crisis. I know around me, I'm seeing farm fields being turned into industrial centers. And it is ultimately a huge issue in education, but it branches out into environmentalism too. So as Charlie was saying, you need a bunch of water to cool down those monitors and those computers. And that's water that's being driven away from much needed agriculture for the US, drinking water, recreational water.
It's this idea that we need to think beyond all of these different individual problems. Like, sure, AI may solve problems in one area, but it's causing another problem in another. So I think, having these smaller conversations about education is great, but I hope as we move through this, the world has larger conversations about the wide-ranging implications of training such technology. Because that's, I have a friend who's in the business who tells me that it's mostly those really big centers is for the training. The training of the tool takes so much energy, so much information, so much power. But then after that, like the individual searches, like when was Abe Lincoln born, that doesn't take very much. But that's not an excuse either. Like to make the tool, it just takes so much away from other people. So it's something that we're all going to have to think about and grapple with.
I think that all of what was just said brings up a really good point, which is this sort of teleological myth, right? That because a thing is going to come and because it's an advancement, it's by its nature good. And that's not always the case, right? And we do have to separate this. I think you are going to be left behind if you don't know how to use AI, but that doesn't mean we should do it. And those two things are very, very different, right? One's a moral issue and one's a logical issue, and they're separated, but maybe they shouldn't be, because learning simple facts, we didn't need AI for that in the first place, right? We need it to be learning for it to be a valuable tool. Now, it can do amazing things like calculate math problems that we couldn't otherwise solve, that helps us understand some of the secrets of the universe. But simultaneously, it can be doing really dangerous things. And simply embracing it, here's my big concern. When we use it to do things like think through something, we have it write something for us, and then other people use it to summarize that writing because they use the Google AI summary or whatever. What we've done is taken away everything of value from the process. We've evacuated it down to something vanilla that's, it remains not anything wherein humans are doing work. And there's real danger if, like right now, if my phone dies, what I do is not fix it, I throw it away. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I'm unusual in that. And I throw it away because I don't have even the beginnings of an idea of how it functions or works. When you do that same thing to how the mind functions, and that is to say, it replaces how we think, there's all kinds of studies that already demonstrate that there is some real loss of the ability to kind of think through some of this stuff. And if one AI is creating something and another AI is telling us, because we're too stupid to understand the first AI, how to think about it, we put ourselves in some actual dangerous places. I'm not saying, I know that sounds like doom and gloom, and I'm not saying that like we shouldn't engage in it or anything. I'm saying it's a mistake to assume just because it's coming, it's the same thing as it being a good thing. And we want to really wrestle with that idea. And here's the place to do it, not necessarily just Delval, but at a university, a place where you can have these kind of conversations.
What's the most blatant way you've seen a student try to use AI?
the students that just like cut and paste the answer straight out of like Google Chat, and I get 20 of the same answers back.
Oh.
That's a flag, right?
So I teach Delval experience, so I do get to grade things. And it was literally a reflection essay. It was about like, what do you like to do? You know, like, why would you put this in ChatGPT? And as I was reading it, like, I had to go back 3 times. And I'm like, what is this even saying? And instead of the student saying, like, I like to play football, it was literally the most convoluted, my family and I partake in the grand American pastime of the playing of the football. And I'm like, what is this? Now, the student came clean, and we talked about it and everything, but he just felt that he didn't sound good enough in what he was saying. And I'm like, I'm just asking you about yourself. So, like, it's funny when ChatGPT does that, first off, puts copy paste a phrase in it, but then it just makes you sound very strange when you put it in there, and it's not your voice. It's really easy to tell. You're 2 English professors. It's really easy to tell when it's not the voice of the student you're looking at. So.
And I think it kind of goes back to like what Brian was saying with like the human mind, like you were asking them simply to reflect on something. And I think now with all the AI and all that stuff, like a lot of students are struggling to think like, oh, my writing is good enough. Like sometimes just because something like is AI written or AI generated, like it might sound better, but that doesn't mean it is better.
There was a particular assignment where the student was supposed to go out and actually experience something, but they used AI, like for the video, like you can put yourself in a place. And so props or creativity, but the assignment was that you were supposed to actually go and do the thing.
So I work at the Writing Center on campus. Come to the Writing Center and Miller Hall. And multiple times I will get students that will come in and it's a personalized essay. And I'm like, girl, you did not write this. And then they're like, yeah, but I just like didn't feel like it. And I'm like, why are you asking ChatGPT to write about a personal experience when this is just a robot or a computer in a factory? Like, it should be the easiest of things to write since you experience it as the human being. And I think I may have tutored that student also because I've multiple times read those types of papers, and something that I think voice as well, writing voice is very prominent to tell, and how a student that I tutor will talk to me and versus the way that their paper is written is sometimes very obvious, and you're not slick.
I'm not 100% certain on this, but I think it was at Auburn did a study recently, and one of the other things that we didn't talk about, but the danger is when you get away with it once, it becomes very addictive. Mm-hmm. People who start using ChatGPT end up using it more frequently, and so if we do, and I think some of this is on the professors as well, right? Because if we're not engaged in saying this is a thing that's out there, if we pretend like it doesn't exist, and then we just yell at people for not doing it, that's problematic. And it's an approach to education, this sort of outcomes approach to education, which I think a little bit like Churchill thought of democracy, right? Like, it's the worst form of education except for all the other ones we've tried. And so, like, but if we don't focus a little bit on process, how you do it instead of what you do, then we lose people, right? Because if the only thing I do is collect the final product, then it's easy to be like, well, I'm just going to use ChatGPT, right? But if I don't talk through or work with students on writing it along the way, then something's lost, right? Because ultimately, I don't really care what your final product looks like. Really, in any class, what I care about is when you leave and you have your first experiences in your job or creative pursuits or whatever it is you're going to do, that you are prepared for how to do that. That's the skill set you leave with, not that you wrote a good essay in my class once. And I mean, I took a lot of classes in college, too many classes because I couldn't decide on a major. And there's a huge portion of them I don't remember anything from, but I don't think that I didn't learn anything in those classes. I think I learned how to do things, and that's just part of who I am now.
Have any of you seen students benefit from AI?
So I have dysgraphia, which is the writing version of dyslexia. Not a lot of people realize that there's more than just dyslexia. So I've used AI a lot. However, I haven't been using the generative AI. I've been using the assistive AI, and a lot of people don't realize AI's been around for a really long time. Voice to text, that's AI. Spell check, that's AI. A lot of stuff is AI. It's kind of been here for a while, but it's just now entering the conversation because of the generative AI, ChatGPT, deepfakes, and all of that. So we've been living with AI for a while now, and a lot of people don't realize that.
I specialize here in accessibility services for the library materials, and it's been around for a while, and it's starting to become, slower than I'd like, starting to become standard. Things that were designed for people with different abilities eventually becomes mainstream for everyone. So if you design something for a deaf person, if you design something for a blind person, it benefits everyone in society. These kind of technologies are everywhere, and they've been everywhere. It just matters how it's being used. In the library world, we have, for instance, a lot of books, right? We have a lot of books. But the different ways that people digest books, we're opening up the door so it's not just one way. You can listen to books, you can read the books, you can have the text change in your hand on a tablet. You can have the text change so it's easier to read. You can have it bigger. There's the big print books, there's the smaller print books, there's the dysgraphia, the dyslexia print books. There's so many different technologies that we've applied over the past several decades that benefit everyone. So I fully believe we can't just go back, obviously, but I think a lot of more people need to understand that it's been around for so long and how it benefits, students like you.
We can have a whole philosophical conversation around AI and how we feel about it and things, but to your point again, we do have to move on with these things. I've seen it benefit students from an accessibility standpoint. I love how you broke down the categories, because that's what we're trying to do in the educating the campus community with the task force of just resources of what's predictive, what's generative, what's assisted. Some people don't know that all those categories exist. And I think that, again, Brian, to your point of it's going to take a paradigm shift for us to move away from just what's the end goal. Like everyone in this room, it's students, here's my grade in this class, and that says everything about everything else. But sometimes that grade doesn't reflect what you learned and the experiences you gained, but unfortunately we put more focus on that end goal. So in a way, we have to start shifting our thinking as educators of what we're emphasizing, so that pressure would be removed from all of you as students to perhaps then use these tools in a negative way because you want so much to have that positive end goal that we all want. So it kind of feels a roundabout way with things, but to me, that doesn't mean the benefit isn't there. I think the benefit is there. I think the benefit will continue to be there. And I would love even a broader conversation on how AI is assisting us with so many things in our world, not just with the writing. And there are times when it helps you with creativity. Like you sit down and you're staring at a blank screen to start trying to write a paper or write anything. And if you're able to query something and ask it just some appropriate prompts, it gets your mind, going. So for me, it's just trying to find that balance that I think is important as part of what we're trying to teach as well.
How does Delval plan to educate both faculty and students on responsible AI use, like in the classroom, just in life?
My focus at the moment is LLMs, learning language models. And understanding, okay, if you're going to be using one, how do you identify what this AI is? how do you know how it works? What are its limitations? What are its benefits? Understanding that it can hallucinate, understanding that you need to double check things. Kind of the same way we go through information literacy training. All right, here's an article that you found. How do you go through your steps to assess? Is this a good article? Not just for my project, but is it credible? Can I defend it? Is there bias? All those things. We're trying to do the same thing for general categories of AI.
But my actual argument for AI would be anything that replaces is no good. Anything that assists or helps in some way is good. That would be my overall argument. If it's doing the work for you, you're not learning. If it's helping you do the work, well, there's lots of tools like that. So that makes sense, outside of any moral concerns we might have about what it's doing to the world.
I can speak from some personal experiences. As a student with deadlines, as we were talking earlier with the benefits, there are certain times where I don't have time to look in the textbook and, okay, how do I do this certain step? So there are times that I just take a screenshot of the equation, plug it into ChatGPT, and it shows me the step-by-step on how to do it. Again, like we were talking earlier about those math equations. So as students, it's helpful if you use it properly, if you use it to just do the step-by-step, the basics on how things work, because we're all busy. We've all got that paper to write, that 2 sections of a math assignment to do. There's too much going on right now, and a lot of that has to do with time management, which is something that, again, a student has to learn. But I feel like I'm just rephrasing things when I say that there are certain things that students need to learn themselves, and they just aren't putting in the effort to do that.
Thank you. I do think that to some extent, from a student's perspective, we tend to use it a lot for helping us learn almost, because sometimes we don't have the resources from the professors that teach us in the way that we need it to be taught, which not saying that it's a bad thing or a good thing, but just saying that sometimes a lot of the ideas of using it is very misconstrued. So that's one of the reasons why we came together today to discuss this and talk about it. And there may or may not be another version of this sometime in the future, but we're so excited to have all of you here, and we're very, very excited to have you all participate in Tea Talks. Rebecca, you want to say anything to close out? All right. Charlie, you want to say anything to close out?
Yeah, use this my camera. Use ChatGPT in small doses, but use your on-campus resources. Come to the Writing Center. Go to Siegel Hall. Tutor by real people. Love ya.
All right, that's a wrap.
You got about balance.
Questions?
Yeah, but it's okay.